So, last session, you guys managed to get through the gate or the seal that was set by some sort of celestial beings that allowed you access into the lower portion of this part of the Underdark. Down there, you found a dead menagerie of creatures, bones of various sizes, some that you could literally walk through their rib cages. Before long, you met with Hawkstrad, who had been sent behind to fetch you guys, so you could regroup with the rest of the Ashen Table members. You came through a few different creatures. Some of them you had seen before, as well as a illithid, to remind you of the dangers ahead. And that's actually where we left off, with you guys following Hawkstrad through the darkness and the bones towards wherever they are resting. And currently none of you using light.
Just because see in the dark.
Everyone's seeing in the dark, yes. Which, as a point, Seraphina and Aaron's, your dark vision's probably only about 2 hours has gone through it, I think. 2 or 3. So, as you guys are heading through this dark, bone-infested area, you constantly see these swarms of these sturge insects just hovering around, looking for the scent of fresh blood, which you guys are wounded still. I don't think Aaron's healed any of you.
I'm fine, nothing's hit me yet.
I don't think we've been physically hit.
Well, yes, sir, I'm still hurt from the ritual, I guess.
The illithid blast thing hurt us.
That was like
Yeah, but that's not physical.
Yeah.
No, that's the only damage I have taken.
You're bleeding out your nose, but yeah, you don't have open wounds apart from anyone who's attacked by the Quagoffs.
Yeah.
I'm slightly above half, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, I am full health. I don't know if I didn't take any hit completely, or maybe...
No, because you rolled an at 20 or something on the save, so you didn't take the damage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are actually...
Most actual hits.
Yeah. Let's start off with you guys just doing a group stealth check, just to see how well you can keep each other covered as you move through this area, following Hawkstrad. That way everyone gets a nice first roll of the game.
Oh, yeah, I got this guy.
Looking good, people.
Wow.
Oh, wait. Sorry, that shouldn't have been an advantage. So just 14.
Just 14.
No, wait. Sorry.
No, 17.
18.
17. Oh.
Because
18
it's
total,
13
as
plus 4
opposed
plus
to
1
Yeah.
plus 18.
Alright. How many were below 10? 1, 2, 3. So 3.
I'm gonna use a hero die, actually. I was thinking about this, and like, yeah, okay.
Alright, go ahead.
I'm the ranger, I need to
Burn them all while you
Slightly
can.
sensitive.
Cool, that's a nice one. So that puts you to 11. Alright, that's above 10. So what's that? 5? 5 above 10. Alright. Yeah. You're not sneaky by any means, but you're keeping low enough to the ground and moving through the piles of bones that the swarms of sturges that you pass, which there's a number of them down here, don't seem to be noticing you. Either they get very close, but you manage to cover up areas that are wounded and not breathe heavily as you follow Hawkstrad, who's also keeping very quiet. and every time he looks behind, all you see is the glint of his eyes. As you guys are moving through, you all had seen the ever so faint glimmer of light coming from one direction towards the east, or at least the east direction of where you're traveling, at least. Those that have high enough perception, so Aaron...
I'm dark visioned though, I only see 60 feet.
You only see 60 feet. So basically then, Ithamor and Seren, can you give me perception checks? Fair enough. Seren,
Yes.
it's difficult to make out anything, especially from this distance and then this low light. But the light that is given from this illumination, on the horizon, there's multiple bones in the way, so it doesn't give you much of a viewpoint, especially from this low down. You're keeping low, so anytime you do peek your head up, you would have to climb over this pile of bones, which I'm presuming you're not doing right now.
No.
But you do see movement. Large movement. Much larger than a standard humanoid shape.
Like giant sized? Can I make that much out?
Not giant size, smaller. More golem-esque.
Okay.
And you don't hear anything, but you're definitely sure they're not moving in a certain direction. It looks like you would say, either moving back and forth.
Like pacing or patrolling?
I'm not sure. You can keep watching them though as you keep traveling. As you keep on losing them for a couple of seconds as you move through another pile, and then you see them again. They're not hard because they are not standing out by any means, but they're definitely obscured.
Are they close to where we're going, or
They're not in the direction you're traveling. They're towards the
Okay.
direction of the light.
Okay.
All of you, though, can feel down here the low rumbling. And Ulan and Savant, you two can recognize it is very similar to that same constant rumbling, which the Duragar reminded you of as the way they kept time down here. That kind of and it's more constant down here, or at least the lower beats are more constant down here. And the ones that do come out, the loud ones, are ever so present. So much so that all of you can actually sense when one of the loud beats comes through, and the whole cavern itself seems to actually give off a resonance to it. But you keep traveling, and it is not so much as an hour passes as you reach a not so much large cluster of bones, but interestingly placed, as if unlike the rest where it was just shambled together, this looks like it's been obviously put together. And then you see Hawksrad vanish into it as he
Illusory terrain? Hallucinatory, illusory, whatever.
That one.
The magic
Okay,
trick
we're
we
in
saw
today, I
before.
give up.
The fake one.
Yeah, we've seen Sherwood use it at the place. So.
I imagine you guys follow through.
Yep.
Alright, as you step through, it vanishes as soon as you step through and reveals, you would say it looks similar to Seraphina's hut. but larger. Almost 3 times the size in diameter. And inside is actually kind of decent. There's actual, well, furniture with quotation marks, as it looks like it's made of stone, of actual chairs, an actual table that's been pulled out of the ground, it looks like, from a slate of stone. This dark stone, which, now that it's lit in this chamber, is purple, or at least some level of dark violet. And it's jagged from what you can tell, especially from this light source, which seems to be ever present. And now in here you feel a nice breeze that seems to be circulating this chamber, of almost a spring breeze. And looking around, you can see sitting at the table, the rest of the ashen table seem to be discussing something.
Is there any like free chair like nearby? I just wanna slam down.
Oh, there's several chairs, yeah. There's actually more than one table, but there's one large table in the center of this chamber.
A wave of the ashen table, like hello, and I sit down.
They don't actually seem to be noticing, unless you shout out or something.
I said my hellos, that's it.
Yeah. But there is some chairs. There's even, you would say, more like hammocks that have been put up. There's not so much beds, but there is other semblance of furniture.
And once I sit down, I wanna focus on my spear.
Okay, yeah. You hold this crystalline, almost, it's more like a javelin, but it's too long to be a javelin. It's almost 5.5 feet of just crystal in one continuous strand. What did the rest of you do?
Are you saying it's taller than me?
Oh, of course it is. Most things are.
How many Seraphinas is it? Unit of measurement.
If we're doing without
Did you say
hats,
5.5 feet?
yeah, so that's like
Yeah, I'm
3.
33
It's 38
Inches?
inches tall, so it's roughly 2 Seraphinas.
Yeah, a little more than 2 Seraphinas. So the rest of you standing,
It's 66 inches long, so yeah, slightly less than 2 Seraphinas.
and the rest of you just standing, just in these, what you thought was the entrance, but it's just nothing. There's a very faint essence of some type of barrier there, but it seems to be covering an entirety of this dome. And you can see straight through it very clearly into the barren landscape of the bones and darkness.
Well, I'll step in and find some place to sit.
Right. As you reorganize yourselves, Hawkshire goes up towards the table and tries to make some semblance of a greeting, while he has no response, as you see both Ro and Arkan seem to be very much pointing at something on the table and rotating it. Looks like, from what you guys can tell looking at it, a shard, a tablet.
Well, this is certainly nice. So why don't we just sit down in the corner? Look at his broken guns.
Eventually, actually, one of the people who isn't by the table comes over as Sherwood. Well, Daniela. Who of you's like not sitting down?
I'm still standing.
You're standing.
I'm still standing.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Count is not sitting on a chair, does that count?
You're sitting, but she comes up to you guys who are just standing. You made it. That's well, better than we hoped. You made it. As you can see, we've set up some semblance of, well, an outpost. I've done my best to hide it, but we're not sure how long it's going to last, especially down here. Well, I imagine you've seen some of the patrols. There's a number of them moving around. You should probably rest. They found something. It looks like a relic of some kind, but neither of them seem to understand it, which is surprising. You can say hello, but they're probably too invested in it at the moment. If you give them a little bit of time, they may come out of it. Do you need any food?
Do you have any muffins?
No.
Then I'm fine, thanks.
Fair enough. There's some. Sachiko managed to make some type of furniture. You should probably take a seat. They've been at this for at least, an hour at this point.
I guess I would just like plonk myself down cross-legged on the floor.
Alright. Serafina?
Yeah, I already said I'm just sitting down, taking
Alright.
it easy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're finding a chair.
Okay. So I take it none of you are going to go up to the table.
Nah.
She said. Yep. Mm-hmm.
What?
Just waiting. Yeah, I will be observing them.
Oh, observing. Alright, sure.
Yeah.
Uh,
But yeah,
okay, that's fine.
another table.
Several minutes passed, counting wise, probably almost 20 minutes passed of them just conversating, and then it's like they're thinking, and then they move around the table looking at whatever's at this table. Eventually, also Janga comes across to you guys.
Rest.
Hmm?
How long is a short rest?
Short rest is an hour. So technically, you guys can take a short rest at this point. Well, you can start taking a short rest.
Well, I think we are.
Yeah, we're pretty much waiting. So I think
As you guys are waiting, Django also comes across, and that's a nice roll, if more. 2 8s and a 4. Eventually, Django comes across, just stalking around, and kind of just crossed-armed, just sits next to one of the chairs with you guys. And they've been at this for a while. Whatever they found seems to be, not meant to be down here.
Ugh.
The first thought is it was supposed to be some type of, elven relic, but apparently it's not.
Sorry, what is it that they're looking at again?
It's some type of tablet. Like, you can't see from this distance very well, but it's relatively flat. It's about 2 foot wide, squarish in shape. Looks like stone or some type of very dull looking color.
And who's looking at it? Arcantile and...
Arcantile and Row.
And right. Okay, I guess Ulan will sigh and just climb back up off the floor and just like wander over and peer annoyingly over Arcantile's shoulder.
Yeah, they're just like just standing at this point. They're not even sitting down. They're standing, like one hand on his chin, looking at it. Row is like arms crossed, leaning back, just staring at it.
I'm still gonna annoyingly look over Arcantile's shoulder because I'm tall enough to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah, with your neck definitely. And he doesn't seem to notice at all, even if you like lean on him.
I'm not like. I want to just position myself so that if I speak, I make him jump.
Sure.
But now, do I recognize any of the writing on this tablet?
As you look across his shoulder and take a better look at this, the tablet is definitely squarish in shape, but it's not flat on the surface. It's scarred and marred all the way across it, as if it's been pockmarked by acid, but almost completely concaved inwards. Almost bowl shape, but as you look across, there's markings which indicate upwards. The opposite of if someone was grooving in markings.
Okay.
Of various patterns and symbols. And what looks like your first interpretation is immediately of orbits, and it reminds you very closely again of the symbol and the seal that you just previously saw of the circle pattern and then lines are crossing in between. It is a little bit more abstract, however. The lines aren't straight.
Does it look a bit planey?
Um,
Like the circles connected by lines and stuff. Does it seem like planes and ley lines or something? Or
it's very odd. You've definitely like looked at several books, especially with Seraphina's books. You've looked at them at least, and some of the drawings definitely do look similar to this. You see, occasionally there is actual circles placed across these lines as well, at various points, which do seem to have some semblance of connection, and a pattern seems to be built across it.
okay. I'm just very quietly gonna say into Arcantile's ear, are you sure that doesn't go the other way up?
We tried several times, but we could flip it over.
I wanted to see if he jumped. But he didn't.
And it kind of just like stops for a second.
Hello, by the way. We're alive.
Ulan,
Hi.
welcome back. This is our temporary abode. Did your entire group make it?
We did after performing an occult ritual and opening a door that probably should not have been opened.
Yes, you told me about this seal. And he kind of looks around the room, the chamber, and then spots the rest of you. He's like,
The big creepy voice in the sky seemed quite pleased about us arriving.
You've heard the voice as well?
Aye.
Well, that seems to be part of this Underdark, or at least this chamber. I haven't been able to work out exactly who it is, but I can imagine it's one of them, at least.
Just to check, are we able to pick up any kind of like gender from the voice or anything? Or is it like abstract? It sounds not like Lolth, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not Lolth. Like, Lolth is very feminine.
Yeah.
And this is, it's odd because recalling it in your head, it becomes more and more clearer in a language you understand. Almost like it was translating itself in your head.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I'm going to make a stupid joke, so you go ahead.
But Arcantile, who now recognizes you, come towards the table. We should at least talk about what we're going to do.
Before we get to that, what's the deal with the big rock and why you're looking at it?
Sorry. Well, while we were waiting, and I mentioned we had a few scouting operations. This is one of the things we found. We first thought it was some type of connection to, well, the Illithids, but it's not undercommon. Ro has made sure of that. And it's not Elven. That was my thought, considering the ruins we found previously. It's something
What kind of
else.
stone is it?
Looking at the stone, it's not common stone down here, and it's not that elvish white stone. It's this almost, you would
Is it
say,
similar to
common?
the door frame?
No.
Can I look at it?
Yeah, can I use my stone canning?
Yeah, as you guys come across the tail, you can see this now as well, and it is definitely this. It's very plain in its color. It's pretty much just grey, just flat grey, no pocket marks across it, apart from this bowl that's been carved or melted into the center, and then across parts that have been jagged or it seems to be cut on the edges where it's been grooved off. There's almost no fracture marks. It's smooth, almost crystal, but there's no reflection. It's dull, which is very odd, considering there's no breakage marks. It's just smooth. You would say it's crystal, but it looks like stone. It's strange. But yeah, you two can give me stone cutting checks to see if you can recognize anything about her.
I doubled my thing, right? So
Yeah, double proficiency.
Oh.
Oh, both of you two. The
That's,
22,
29
25.
for me.
20. Oh, because you had extra. Yes. Nice. Yeah, you two looking at this is fascinating. Considering just looking at it as a dwarven perspective, this would be amazing crafting material. Considering it doesn't look like it has fractures across it. It doesn't look like it has any weak points in terms of its structure. And how it's been carved, you're fairly certain it's been cut either with something very sharp or magically. And the stone itself, considering what 22 and 29, yeah, no, both of you are very certain, especially Senager, very certain it's not of this world, or at least this plane. And then looking at these markings, it's very much almost impossible to make these types of markings where instead of its indentations into the stone, it's coming out of the stone, which
And
is
there's no tool marks to say
no
that
tool
it was
marks
like
at all.
bas relief in Egyptian.
Yeah,
art type
zero.
of thing. So it's been literally raised out of the stone. So it's either that's not. From
It is
that's-
very
That's
strange.
not from around here.
Does it resemble any of the stone from the Earth Elemental Plane that we saw?
The very small part you saw, no, that was very granular in terms of its structure. That was, even you could tell that was definitely stone. This, you're not even sure if it's stone.
Does it resemble any of the braziers lit up in the ritual?
The stone you saw, the ritual, that was actually metal. You could tell that was metal. They had reflections across it.
What about the statues?
The statues, you guys had a good look at the statues, yeah. There wasn't much light in there to tell.
Yeah, there was. We lit up.
Oh, you did light up, actually. Yes, you did. So yes, there is some connection in between the two.
It looks like the statues at the creepy door.
It does. Not from this plane. I wonder if
I
it's
mean-
from the. I mean, if we can tell it's not from this plane. Wait, oh no, we wouldn't know exactly what it's from. Even
Well,
with
Yeah.
the
The
net 20.
thing, I mean, the thing is, right? The door was meant to keep something down here,
Right.
but
Oh.
we don't necessarily know that that had anything to do with planes, because the Earth portal was because of like some deal that the Duragar have made, and
True.
this other shadow plane portal is because of one of the wonky book things. So I'm guessing that unless Celestials and that kind of thing have like a ridiculous amount of foresight, they didn't put down that door specifically to block a portal that has only been opened in the last few weeks.
No, it's true. I'm just. I don't know.
If the portals were created to keep something in, and if it's of the same material, maybe it's like a room to weaken something that's down here.
Alright.
As a note, it was similar to the door, actually.
There's stuff around the door.
Yeah.
The door itself.
Okay.
Hmm.
Whereabouts did you find this?
And he looks over at Ro. We found it close to, well, the light. It was in a pot of bones.
The light? Is that something that I know what they're referring to?
You're probably assuming that the ambient light coming from the
Oh,
east.
the glow in the distance.
The glow, yeah.
And it was just like chilling out in some bones.
That is where we found it, yes.
Alright, well we saw stuff like this back at the entrance that we came through.
My material is almost exactly the same as the door itself.
How did you get here? Like, what was your path like? I know you walked through mystical darkness for a spell, but like, was it just like rough cut caverns and tunnels and things, or did it look like a well-traveled path? Was there any kind of like door or entranceway or anything like that?
To be completely honest, I think it was more of a fissure. And he kind of points up towards the darkness of the ceiling. We came through there. It was, well, interesting getting down.
Right, well, I'm no rockologist, but
What?
it's a special kind of scientist who studies rocks. It's a technical term. Never mind. But I'm wondering if maybe the way that you came down wasn't always there, because we definitely seem to have come in through the front door.
I believe that's true. Considering what you talked about, this seal, that seems to be, well, the official way in. I think we managed to come through a back door of sorts.
Well, the obvious question that occurs to me then, we were told by your oracle that there's 3 paths.
Yes.
Where does the other path lead to?
That is another good question.
Because if that path, as we suspected at the time, involves drow and whatever else is going on with that, then the answer to the connection between the drow and the Illithids possibly lies in that sort of a direction. The other question that occurs to me is that we followed signs of like the Illithids leading their golem army downwards. Presumably they all came down through the citadel and along the path that we went down. So does that mean that the Illithids are able to open that door and march an army through? Or does that mean that we missed another path to get down here along the way?
Considering...
Because I mean, if like from the look of things, it was a door to keep the Illithids out. So if the Illithids have been using that door, someone must have opened it from the other side for them. Or
You said it was sealed, though, correct?
Well, we saw what looks like some drow trying to open it. Like, we found their bodies strewn about the place.
And they were not alive.
Not anymore, no. We figured that they probably did it wrong.
Did you fully explore this citadel?
I mean, ish. We sort of, like, we had a shifty on the way down. We found some prisons and some wonky experiments that made some prisoner guy feel all weird and aberration-y. But we couldn't figure out what was up with that.
Well,
And any creature, no magic.
Aye.
so the Durgar are very much involved, these Illithid.
Aye, and they built a fucking army. Like any of the golems that you've seen down here, that was an army built with the assistance of reinforcements from the Earth Elemental Plane, which, by the way, we closed that portal, everything's fine.
He kind of just gives a curt smile. Like,
We bumped into, like, a queen or something.
Dow.
Yeah, she was a
of
dow.
Rosa.
She was like princess. She was a princess, not a queen. That's right. We freed her. She was quite nice, actually. She packed off back home. So, and like the portal is shut, and she says it's not going to open from the other side or anything like that. So, the army that the Illithids have currently is the only army that they're getting, golem-wise. But the whole fucking citadel was cleaned out. I don't think we ran into a single Durgar the entire time. Well, aside from the good Durgar we met before we went in the first place.
Well, and the
No,
ones
we ran
by...
into a few.
Oh, that's right. There were a
ability
few
to
that
get
we
bigger.
took care of, yeah. And who else did we run into when we? They were like harvesting stuff from elementals. It was friggin' sick and creepy, to be honest. So we killed the fuckers responsible for that.
probably to create these golems. That makes
Aye.
sense. Well, we've definitely seen golems down here. Several of them.
And
We
you've seen a lot of.
told you
those-
actually. We managed to deal with some. Some.
And
yeah.
word of advice.
Yes,
There's
Serafina.
these small creatures. I'm describing the appearance of the tiny fucking thing.
Oh, the
that's-
exploding fucktards. Yeah.
Don't use magic on them because they explode.
Yeah, they kind of get supercharged. There was the big clay, the
Yeah,
big
don't shoot
loopy
lightning with
thing
clay
as
golems.
well that got like electric charged.
I'll look at Serafina.
Yeah, and
Or poison.
a bunch of idiots managed to get themselves hooked by that.
Well, what I do know of clay golems, they're very good against, well, dealing with liquids. They don't deal too much with heat, though.
It's heat. I bake the suckers. All right.
Well, that's how you make a vase.
All right. We'll call that Operation Kiln then, Serafina. All right.
Quite apt. But
But yeah,
that's if
also-
we deal with them.
What are these fucking creepy monster shits that have been attacking us down here?
Which ones? The third ones? Or
Hookstrad, what were they? The stuff you were missing all the time?
as he kind of try to keep out of the conversation and just strolls with his eyes closed and opens the game, and they're no longer lit. Well, I think you were talking about the ghouls, and I did hit a number of them. I just missed the last group.
Just the important ones.
You were fine. I was giving you, well, I was letting you hit something.
Alright. Thanks for that.
You're very welcome.
But like ghouls ghouls, you say, what exactly is a ghoul? Is it like an aberration beastie, or is it like something else?
From what we've seen, generally ghouls are undead. However, the ones down here are, well, as expected, something different. They're
Right.
definitely aberrations at this point. They've been, well, I'm not sure how they create them, but I'm putting my bet down they use, well, slaves. Probably
So-
drow.
So, or possibly our missing Duragar.
Or the Durga, yes.
Right. Well, that potentially answers another of the questions on my increasingly lengthy list.
My current theory is that the next stage, if you would call it that, of what Grimlocks become. And
Okay.
we've all seen them.
That's interesting. Now, the other thing as well, and I may have dreamed this entire bit, so I apologize in advance. We saw signs that, like, they weren't just making golems, they'd made shit to bring down here, like tiles made of the stuff.
That was for the golems.
What is that for the guns? Oh, never mind then.
Repair parts.
Okay.
But yes, there are several golems down here. These clay ones you speak of, as well as some made of stone, larger than the rest. Slower as well.
There's also potentially an adamantine golem.
Excuse me?
Cold iron, sorry. The special metal the Citadel's made of?
Not much better, but okay.
Yeah, but there's basically a super fancy one that was made for the king, and that's missing. And we can't really find any sign of the king either.
Well, he got killed, but then they I think it was explained they took his essence spirit and stuffed him in
Oh,
a
that's
golem.
right. That's right.
Just raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Apparently, these golems are like sentient. Maybe our missing Durgar are in the golems.
You're saying we're killing Golem Durga?
I'm pretty sure that they're already dead.
And
So
it's
I would spin it more as that you're freeing the trapped souls of deceased Duragar.
At
so
this
that they can
point,
transition onto their
I
eternal
don't
rest.
care what's in them, but usually golems are created and animated by elemental spirits.
Well, from what we understand from the princess, these ones, rather than being controlled by a central source, some of them are gonna have a degree of autonomy because of the Duragar essence that's been rammed into them.
And because they have sentience, they can be mind controlled. Oh, that makes so much sense.
And we were told the most effective way to take care of them is
They've
their
got
hearts.
a glowy thing in their heart, basically.
Yes. Well, considering the illithids are now going to be controlling them, we're going to have some interesting times. Illithids and golems. Great.
The
Alright.
question is,
Don't
what's-
forget the Mithril ones.
The which ones?
Mithril.
Mithril
Adamantine.
golems?
I thought Ulan just said it was.
There was the
Cold iron.
cold iron one that was
Oh,
made
yeah.
for the king, but that was it. I don't think there were any.
Don't tell me there's others.
I don't think so. The other question that we still have yet to answer, and I'm possibly dreading the answer to. Well, aside from the fact, like who built that creepy portal thing and what the fuck was that? Where's the Lolth connection here?
Well, apart from these drow that you spoke of, the ones that seem to be uncorrupted but trying to open the gate, we haven't seen any.
Well, how do any of you know anything about Lolth or Plains? Like, does she live in the Shadowfell?
She has a presence in the Shadowfell. She's normally known to have dominion over part of hell, well, the abyss, known as her demon web, aptly named. But the Shadowfell has some connection to her, yes.
Right, because I'm just trying to find the connection here, like why? Because for us it all started with Lolth, and we know that. Well, we presume that her ambition is to conquer everything.
Well, that is Drow's
Right, but the question
always
is,
opinion.
the question is, are the Drow allied with the Illithids, or are the Illithids, or rather, are Lolth and the Illithids allies, or is one controlling the other?
Well, we have seen the Drow being controlled by
Aye, but are they being?
Wait.
But we've also seen like literally an avatar of Lolth in that situation. So unless she just like happened to be there at the same time and was trying to stop what we were also trying to stop, which admittedly is possible, but if not that, then where's the cooperation?
If
Like-
what you've spoken about with these Duraka, I imagine it's something similar as well. I don't think the Illithids are strong enough just yet to have complete dominion, but
Randall, what if Log has lured us here to deal with the Illithids for her?
Well, that's
That
what
seems
I
like
think
her.
you're halfway through that sentence, aye.
there might be the chance they are fighting over the book. Or trying to
Well,
fight.
my other suspicion is if
the book is
Lolth-
powerful.
If Lolth is working with the Illithids, then and she's got some connection to the Shadowfell, are they maybe trying to open the door for her to crawl through? Like what else is?
I can tell you right now, the Illithids aren't opening anything to the Shadowfell. You know where it's taking, and that is not the Shadowfell.
It's not.
The
Then what's
ref-
the whole bleed through bollocks then?
That
The-
is probably just something else entirely. The rifts, well,
Okay.
my research is mainly on the rifts, but it is broken up to something else entirely different. There's, some would call it a convergence. I would call it a breakdown.
Okay.
The other planes are getting closer.
And they're chafing up against each other and leaking through.
Especially against ours, which is, well, fortunately and unfortunately the center of it all. It means we are the last to be affected, but also the one that gets all these bleed throughs, which, as we've seen, are these rifts.
So
And it is definitely something different. This is being torn open, not just being bled through.
So we're in a land that's covered in Shadowfell blood splatter.
Yep.
Fighting an army from the Earth Elemental Plane that wants to open a portal to yet another completely different place, and we have no idea where that place is.
Oh yes, and I will have no doubt it will cause much in the way of pandemonium on several scales, let alone what it lets through.
Right.
Just the effect of being physically torn open will... I don't know what that would cause.
Okay. Do you have any guesses? Or what, like, are we dealing like those creatures that are coming through? Is it possible that they're coming from the abyss or the hells or something?
Aberrations generally don't come from the hells. Those are usually fiends, demons, to be more precise.
Where do aberrations come from then?
Beyond.
Beyond?
any one plane in particular, or
From none. It comes from what we know as this astral sea, or, well, the vacant space between the planes.
okay.
We know, obviously, of the upper planes, the positive, and the negative ones, the lower planes. And what is the absence in between?
If I understand, like, remember my monkey stuff, it's the gloopy stuff in between, right?
He physically chuckles. Yes, the gloopy stuff in between. The jello, if you will. It's what keeps everything apart, but also connects everything. There's various, well, things in there. There's also several deities which create their own realms there. It's very, well, fluid. You can make what you will in there and be turned into what it wants in there. Everything's very, well, open for interpretation. Yeah.
That astral sea, right?
Yes.
The
There's-
Astral B was better, if you ask me.
Don't wait for the Astral A. That's already gone. Anyway, sorry. I shouldn't be making jokes.
Aaron's got an Astral A.
What
Well,
I'm
no,
assuming.
Sorry, he's got a stellar one. I always get those two backwards.
Yes.
I had it for a long time. I have not forgotten about it. I have magicite stone that's connected to the astral sea.
You have what?
A magicite stone.
Yes, but connected to the Astral Sea.
Yes.
Is that the wonky clear one?
No, that's
Yeah.
the black one. We
The
found.
black one, sorry.
Yeah,
That's right.
I will find it in my backpack.
Well, yes, the Astral Sea is, well, very fluid in its nature. It can become anything and take anything to become anything. It's very much like, if you know of the schools of magic, it's very similar to transmutation. There's a lot of that happening. The books, I don't know exactly where they connect to, but I assume it's the Astral Sea. If the Drow are after it as well, that's possible, but we haven't seen any evidence they're after the book itself. It's interesting. Before that, we need to actually figure out how we're going to get the book ourselves. We can't let them keep hold of it, and we can't let the Drow get hold of it either. We need to... Well, what I can tell, and what Ro has told me of her scouts, as well as Drango, they're definitely over towards the light, to the east of here. It's where they have some type of colony, or at least some type of domain. From what it looks like, there isn't actually that many Illithid, from the scope of things at least. But with the golems there, that's made everything, well, in their favour. I was hoping this tablet would have some type of help, considering it's, well, down here, but none of us can even read it. Well,
Did you try to identify it?
it's not even magical. That's the fun
is
thing.
there anything on it that looks like writing?
There's markings. It doesn't look like writing. It looks more like those symbols you saw on the seal.
Sorry, the ones like in between
Yes.
the. Okay.
Savant is gonna go up and look because he haven't looked.
Yeah, you kind of hop onto a
Yeah.
table to look up into it. The
Do we,
table's
like,
pretty high.
recognize any of them?
Give me Arcana check.
While he's accounting, I do have to go, guys, because I gotta get to work.
Go for it, sir.
Okay.
Take care of work.
Yeah, okay. Since every time I leave you, then I find you in a worse position than you were before.
Yeah. It's always the second half.
Yeah,
To be
it's
fair,
always
it can't
second
get
half.
much worse than we currently are in. We're like
Uh,
completely and
don't-
utterly
don't-
fucked, so
Don't
we're,
jinx
we
it.
are all gonna die.
Okay. I
So just while you're
hopefully,
at work, just think about us all horrifically dying.
I will see you all next time. Hopefully, I will also see all of your characters next time.
Don't count on it.
You said it's not magical.
It is not.
Is it a chemical?
I have definitely
or
checked.
Technology.
No. It's none of those.
Did Arcana show anything?
17. Yeah, looking at this, there's none that you've seen previously. There's no squares, the squiggly line, triangle, but there's definitely connections to it, and you recognize one of them, just a singular one. It's probably the weirdest one, which is probably the most complex, which is probably the only reason why you remember it. It's a star, or at least looks like a star. And you only know about this because you were on a mountain, so you saw stars constantly. And this one is placed perfectly in the top center of the this tablet, or at least it could be from the direction that you're looking at it.
Alright, and it's just a star.
It's a
Okay.
star. You know, generally, if there's a star on it, it usually means northbound.
It probably goes this way up then, if that's probably the top.
You also know the stars. The stars represent a lot of things. The north one usually represents, obviously, northward direction, but it also represents the central point. It can also mean, as in, always looking that direction as the center of where you should look. But the rest of it being unclear, you can't really pull anything else out of it.
Okay.
But yeah, there's a lot of uncanny things that you can, like, it's like, oh, that kind of looks like this, but it's then doesn't make sense. The same as the seal. It's like it looks like the 5 elements, but then it doesn't, because there's some connections which don't make sense. You can definitely do a check if you want, Savant. Yeah.
Do you know
What
what
check do you want me to roll?
What are you trying to find out about it?
Is it anything in, like, because gnomes have a tendency to just write down everything history-wise, and like in my intense knowledge of giant culture, anything that would connect me?
There's nothing giant based on it, but you can definitely do a history. Was Seraphina going to say something?
Yeah, I will ask if they know the purpose of it or have the.
It wouldn't even be good if I had
I
expertise.
don't think they even know what it is, let alone the...
I
Just
don't.
for theory.
There's several theories which, well, could deal with this. I think it's like it's part of something larger. That is all I'm convinced.
It could be a piece of another door, it could be a decorative
Yes.
floor tile.
The
It
main
could be
part, which there's this one line that looks like it circles through, and he points at one line which goes from the left to the right underneath the star that you point out, and then disappears across the tablet, and then looks like it reappears in a circular direction at the bottom.
So
And then-
underneath the star it's kind of like a curve.
Yes, but not a circle. It's very... if you saw a circle and kind of rotated it almost horizontal, and you kind of see
So-
that oval shape instead.
It kind of looks like side on.
Yeah.
Does it look like the horizon? Or does it look more like a plane?
It looks more
As in,
like a.
math sense?
It looks more like the oval of like a plane. It's curved on both sides, but they line up perfectly if you wanted to make like an oval shape with them. But you can't see either edge.
This symbol quite often means, like, it either means like north or up or like the center of something. And this circly thing looks like a plane, right? Well,
Yes.
you said that the material plane is the central
It's the central point.
plane. So
Yeah.
maybe
If
maybe
we
that
made a
just means here.
line, and he kind of like does like a hand motion to put like a line from the central point down the center, and it passes through and goes past, and then the center on one of the lines is a circle. Well, there's a circle here. What could this mean? Is this the material plane? Is this like?
Is it like the center of the world? Like the center of the material plane.
It's too much we don't know about this.
Right.
Wow.
Noticing.
And of course, it doesn't remind me of any stellar maps or anything like that.
Well, it looks like a star map. Like, you can definitely see there's, there isn't so much in this way of actual celestial maps, but there are star maps, and you can definitely see when Ulan points out the star in the center. It's like, oh, that looks like a star, right? And looking across, there are other spots you can see which aren't as uppressed as everything else, but there's very small kind of pricks coming out of it, which look like other markings, which aren't lines like everything else. Just these little spikes pointing out.
Someone's gonna say, is anyone good with stars?
One of my questions I actually wanted to ask is if there was more stars on the tablet thing, and if it corresponded with the stars sky we saw in our dream, where we were in this white thing with black and white bubbles.
Looking at it,
And that's
give me an intelligence check. Yeah.
Let someone smarter do it.
That rollback. Oh. 20. Oh. Yeah. Looking at this, and it's very faint. Considering it was a dream and it was all weird, and you definitely recognize the remember the balls of this dark, sickly syrup color falling and rising from several places above and below you. And you do recognize. You remember in the dream there was dots, sparkles, and there was a brighter spark of light, and it was above you, or at least it looked central above, and there were others.
When was this dream?
This was this was when you were in the ruins. Yeah.
In the ruins?
Yes.
Well, like the dream.
No,
before
this
we
was
left
at
what
the
dream?
this was at the ley line, I believe.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Because I remember it as I do. I pull out stuff to write and draw with, and I will draw out the star pattern that was in the dream.
Okay. You're not going to get all of them, but you're going to get a good amount of them. But you start doing that. Seraphina's like standing on one of the chairs to lean onto the table. And you start marking the stars that you remember. Who else is at the table?
I am.
You are, and Ithamore?
I think we've all crowded around at this point.
Yeah.
Apart from Aaron, who's sitting off meditating. Which I'll get to in a minute. But the rest of you are on the table. While she's writing, you notice the stars as well, and you'll remember the dream, at least parts of it. And as she brings up stars, and Ulan brings up the stars, and Savan brings up the stars, yeah, you remember there were stars. Or at least you think they were stars. There were definitely lights, separate lights in the sky, apart from all the other weirdness that was happening.
Question: as a
Yeah.
ranger, would you say I have knowledge of stars as to be guided by them?
I say you need them for survival, yeah, especially when you're above ground. Yeah, you have a good knowledge of them. You definitely remember the North Star, yeah.
Okay, so Savant is gonna sit down or stand up because otherwise he would be on the ground. He's gonna stand up and think about if there any particular time of year that it would line up, like in his head, like
If the stars will line up?
like because stars moves because that's
Yeah.
how,
The stars are in different places at different points in the year.
like
Well,
would it be
that's
a-
normally. But,
winter time, summertime?
you know, the stars don't really move.
Well, I guess the axis of this planet isn't working then.
And we were told that we don't recognize it. The constellation.
Yeah, the constellations on this are weird, but you know there's stars, and there's definitely different like points on this map, and there's several other lines which also intersect these two main lines, and several other circles placed around. Some aren't even on this line. It's weird. There's like you can attach yourself to it, all of you can. But then everything else is just so out of order that you can't really make sense of the rest or attach anything else. And as you're all kind of just thinking on it, Aaron, you finish attuning to it, to the staff.
Yes.
Or it's more of a spear, but sure, we'll call it staff.
Pointing.
It is white. As you finish attuning to it, you feel a glow coming from it that kind of warms in your hand. And if you kind of just like open one eye and look at it, the dull color has now gone, and it is now illuminated from the inside of a very faint, almost peach-colored light, which you recognize as your own kind of pinkish color that you have as Suni's magic, divine essence.
Yeah.
And you learn that the name of this spear is Glory's Splinter. I'll give you the rest of the stuff later because I need to write it out.
Yep.
But it is a +2 spear.
Awesome. I can poke them with +2 now.
There are various other things which you learn and go, ooh, about. But I'll send that to you in a second. As you're doing this, you feel another sensation. of hands around your neck.
Wait, are we in the
I'm gonna
Feywild?
Hello, darling.
Is it in my head or is it?
Oh no, you
Everybody.
you hear a voice behind you. Yeah.
Oh, so you mean the hands are not choking me?
No.
Okay.
I would tell you if you're being choked.
I was gonna say, is there an archway around?
And they slide down your chest.
Hello.
What
Are
you're
the
doing?
rest of us seeing this?
You're looking at the map, so you know.
Can I roll like a perception or a knowledge or something?
You could attempt to, yes, sure.
Notice sense perversion.
Sorry,
check.
what do you want me to roll?
Perception, sure.
Nope.
Nope.
God damn it.
BRB.
This map is just too interesting.
I'm just checking out this spear I've just found.
Who are you?
What's
Not
your
even
passive
with the
arousal?
16? Oh, what, 2?
Do I have to roll for a stealth at this point now? I guess.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they should all roll at disadvantage.
Yeah, you are doing something right now, so.
Very focused on
Roll for a
playing
stealth.
stats for what I remember.
BRB.
Yeah. Okay, 14. So, Saren, you. Actually, no, it's at disadvantage, so it's a -5 is disadvantage.
Yeah, that's for passive.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're too busy looking at this weird map.
God damn it.
Yes.
You're looking at a spear? How interesting. How about I help?
It seems to take some of my essence.
Oh,
Something like that.
well, should I help?
Can I inside her?
Sure.
She's much more direct towards me than usually.
Yeah, sure. Give it insight.
Yeah.
Insight this girl. What was the +1s?
Wait, this was once?
What the random d6s?
Yeah, the random d6s. I was like, wait,
Don't
what?
roll them. I don't look at my roll.
I was like, wait, how's... Yeah, whatever. 13. One of the immediate things you notice is her hands are definitely warm. And...
Does she seem like herself?
From the amount of times you've seen her, yes. She's definitely more forward, but she doesn't seem not herself.
Okay.
Yeah. She's just being handsy, you would say.
I'm actually finished with the spear, and I'm. What have you been up to?
Oh, I'm just making sure people don't die.
I know they just tend to love to go into danger.
Mm. Well, I don't dislike danger.
Well, it's thrilling down here, I have to say.
Thrilling. Well, it always gets so cold.
Oh, you.
I don't get to snuggle with anyone. It's so disappointing.
Deep breath, dear. Deep
And
breath.
she kind of leans in a little bit closer behind you.
I make sure I use prestidigitation to get my clothes really warm. Well,
Oh,
Maybe
you
with-
smell lovely.
Oh, thank you. It's special.
Mm.
Aaron is honestly he's lost.
Do you feel that like nuzzle into your neck?
I'll giggle despite myself.
Okay, can we perceive the giggling?
Saren, you can perceive giggling, yes, at this point.
Yeah, I'll take a look over my shoulder and I'll elbow Ulan.
He's like, this map. What? Yeah, and you can see Aaron holding his spear, kind of like shaking in his hands, and Setchiko very clearly hanging behind him with her face like in his neck, arms around his down his chest.
Oh my god, my inventory.
Use that sentence.
Do you just like stick your hand in a bag of holding and just like pull something out?
Just rummage around, what have I got?
A dagger.
Yeah, I was gonna be like, what can I throw at his crotch? And then you're just like, a dagger. Maybe not.
You do have like 6 of them. I don't know. Do you want to roll randomly?
I'm not worried about the dagger. I'm worried about his crotch.
Oh, that's the nicest thing you said to me.
Oh, dear me. I guess, like, no, I'll just leave him to his own devices. But I now know. And, like, Ulan is as close to, like, the O face emoji. You know, like that one.
So is Aaron, which is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well,
As Aaron's face is very wide-eyed.
can I perceive any kind of
Do you
bulge?
need to make a constitution save?
Constitution save. That'd be a will save. That's definitely a wisdom save.
Wait, who? What?
I don't know. Probably. I don't know. How is Aaron reacting to this?
Trying to compose himself.
Okay. Yeah.
Was never like approached on so hard before.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Give me a wisdom save. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm good at those.
Let's see how he can compose himself in this nature. And 17. He's keeping himself together. His face is definitely showing, but he's not breaking down.
Showing.
Man, how far away is he from me right now?
This chamber's actually quite large, but you're still like he's about 20 feet away. He's on one of the sides, so yeah.
Can I stealthily move 5 feet closer?
So you move away from the table.
Yeah, but stealthily.
Okay.
Remember, I have a high passive.
He does.
Yeah, and that's not a good stealth roll.
Nope.
But he's distracted.
Yep, which is 22 is -5, which is still like 17.
So all he's seen is me like back up 5 feet
Yep.
right now. But has he noticed that?
Yeah, he's definitely, his ability to see things in the room is uncanny.
Okay. I'm just still gonna go with what I was gonna do. I would like to engage my Fist of Unbroken ability, but just like flick him in the crotch. From 15 feet away.
Just give me an attack roll to see how accurate you can do this.
Just a regular attack roll. Okay,
Yeah.
hang on.
14.
It doesn't hit me.
Is it not?
No.
No.
Okay.
But that
well,
damage.
Did it just miss?
You feel a very faint tickling around your nether region, Aaron.
Well,
Well, that's normal right now.
I'm just gonna like that was the flick with my index finger. I'm just gonna work my way down the hand to like middle finger and then ring finger.
You're just gonna keep on like brushing air across.
It's only a flick, so it's not like gonna do masses of damage.
No, it's not gonna do any damage.
Oh, that's the wrong. That's the wrong you
Uh-huh.
word. Wow, that was a 2.
Wow. Yeah, you just feel this very faint. It's like for some reason there's a breeze going.
We would notice by now.
Oh yeah, you're like totally see. Like you saw him move away, and now you're seeing him like flick in your direction.
Yeah, just like gently flick, and that's all. And then I give
Is it because Aaron had his
I-
armor on, right?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, so he basically hit his not guard, basically.
Yeah, I've just been caressing your cock.
So
So have
you have
I noticed that Aaron's noticed?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Aaron.
So
I'm
you
just
can't
gonna
feel
give
her
him
touching your
a-
chest then.
I'm just gonna give him a double thumbs up and step back.
Yeah, he's got armor on.
Yeah, but she
His
slid
armor.
her hands under the armor.
Oh no, she definitely slid under.
When
Okay.
Ulan comes back to the table, I nudge him and say, yeah, watch this, and then I'll go to Aaron,
Oh,
pull
Jesus
out,
Christ.
pull out Forge song, turn into a blade and say, hey, Master Aaron, mine's bigger. So just see the reaction.
Wait, you haven't noticed us.
Yeah, technically, yeah. If I'm more hasn't.
Oh, I'm pretty sure he has by now.
Yeah, so I would have noticed Ulan and Seren looking, and what Ulan did.
At this point, it's become a whole thing.
Okay.
I
That's why we
just-
can't have nice moments, guys. That's why we cannot.
And as you come across, you see Setchiko very slowly turn her head away from his neck and looks at you dead in the eyes. And for a second, I'm gonna do a quick roll. Ah, okay. Can you give me a wisdom save? $17. Hers is 8 plus proficiency plus wisdom. Ooh, you pass. Actually, wait. No, she's 17.
Well, if it's charm, elves got advantage.
Oh, then yes. Roll again.
Well,
Or not.
Or not. And for a second, her eyes turn into slits as she looks up. And they kind of give off a bit of a glow. Elf, could you leave us alone? And you are suggested to walk
Yeah,
away.
I turn it back, push on back into sword sheath and then go back to the table.
And then she just slide back.
What are you gonna do next? Cast Master get them and say leave?
It's always like this. So embarrassing. I'm so sorry.
And then, like, really weirdly, you hear a purr? Like, generally you hear...
Is the predator right next to her?
I'm sorry, is there a terribly obvious shimmering next to them? Oh dear.
At this point, everyone's seen Itham will walk up, pull out his sword, put it away, turn around and walk back. I'm not sure what just happened, but we should really talk about what we're gonna do.
when Serafina once is done with the putting down the stars, she remembers, then she will. I guess she needs to crawl up on the table to go over and point out the obvious similarities.
Yeah,
How high
if
is this table that you need to crawl up on them?
well, yes, a halfling and a gnome. You two need to climb onto a chair to get onto the table.
Yeah, like come on a chair. You don't need to crawl up.
I
on the
am
table.
on the chair, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people, so yeah, you would have to stand on it. But she can do, yeah, without problem.
Well, probably.
That or we can get a trench coat and someone can stand on.
Yeah.
He can stand on.
Also, so everybody can see.
For your map making of the stars, is there even a check for star making? I guess survival?
Wouldn't that be nature?
No, survival is usually for star stuff because it's for navigation and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You want Savant to do it?
Fernie was the one doing
Well,
it, so
it's
yeah.
just
Alright.
average-ish kind of trying, and then also pointing out it's from the dream we had.
Yeah. Just give me a survival check.
Not bad.
Not bad. 16. And as you talk about that, this is from the dream, which both Hawkstrad and Sherwood both had.
Yeah, where I also explained that Hogstrad had the theory that it might have been related to the Astral Sea.
Which he kind of just nods at. Yes, I think it was something to do with the ley lines, and well, I'm pretty sure what we were looking at was some type of gate of some kind. And you start pointing out the North Star, and there are some that actually make sense in terms of their position with each other, that match up with your own map. And as you do this, Arcantale's just hands crossed, just fascinating.
Well, it does make sense with the possible gate thing because as far as I remember, it is kind of a gateway. Gateway between planes.
You're seeing it's some kind of Stargate.
God damn it.
Oh, yeah. There's only a few people I would know that would use stars in this manner. Well, one being the elves is the obvious one, but if we're talking about the Astral Sea, it would have to be the Githyanki. Which...
Bless you.
Yes, thank you. Wait, what?
Oh, sorry, I thought you sneezed. What was that?
No, sorry. The Githyanki. They're a... That would make sense, considering the Illithids. They're a... Well, they're a long story. Yeah. They were a race, created by the Illithids. Or at least that's what the stories say. But apparently they broke off and separated themselves into the Astral Sea, where they kill any Illithids they find and rescue those that, have been consumed by them, which usually means more killing.
The gate, the paintings, they were bloody fighting and people getting devoured.
Were there... They say to have longer heads. They seem to have a larger brain than most other creatures, which makes sense in terms if they were slaves for Illithids. Larger brain, larger feasts.
Out of game comment, did somebody not see a skull that seemed off in some of the piles that was long-ish?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
What did you say?
But a skull that didn't look quite human.
Yes.
Had a oval-ish shape, but I don't remember who noticed it.
I think it was Savant. It was, or at least it got noted because I have it in my notes.
I actually think it might have been Ulan.
Yeah, no, that sounds like something because I remember thinking of making all kinds of Crystal Skull references.
Yeah.
Yes, you did find one.
It actually says in my note something like the Crystal Skullish.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But just before we go back, I both love and hate you right now, Abby, because yesterday this week's Unearthed Arcana is the Gith player class, player race, and I
Oh.
was thinking, ooh, I might have to change my backup character. And now you've just brought them into the thing, so... Okay.
You're welcome.
We found a skull thingy that may have been one of these big brain people.
Wait, a skull?
When did we find it?
Sneaking between from the beginning and then to somewhere before.
Was it on the way to the
It ha-
waterfall?
No, when we entered this place after the gate. And then,
Oh, just after, yeah.
yeah, where we
Yeah,
found
no,
these
it was in-
piles of bones that
It was
still
in one of the bone
deliberately-
piles, that's right.
Well, you don't have to go find it, but that means there must have been some conflict. And you said there was some type of fight, a battle.
Wait,
on
wait,
the...
wait, I'm sorry. We're standing in the middle of an enormous, like, cavern full of bones, and you think there might have been a conflict.
What else was on the door? Just
Blood.
brushing.
I mean, it was like pictographs of some kind of. It looked like things being caged. Like, it looked like it was a story of how the door had been put there to keep the Illithids in, I guess. What?
Were there illithid on it?
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Were there other races?
yes?
I think there were elves on there and Durgar.
I would guess there was quite possibly elves, Duergar, maybe even some celestials. There were an assortment of different languages, only 4 of which we could translate. There was Common, Dwarvish, Elvish, Celestial, and Undercommon, but none of us can read Undercommon.
And on the circle, underground, there was
some Abyssal as well. Which, I mean,
And there was some giant. If I
yeah, and there
remember.
were all kinds of weird symbols.
This means a lot of things.
It does, but it's not necessarily relevant to our initial thing. I mean, it
Well-
would be great to understand what this weird square of stone means, but are we risking getting distracted by archaeology when really we should be focusing on finding out who has the book and finding them and perhaps setting fire to them in the book?
That's what I was saying. I told you, Arkan. You spend too much time with your research.
Well,
Fine.
as I thought, we might stumble upon something like this, and
We might stumble upon something, but we might also spend so long investigating this bit of rock that the portal or whatever gets irrevocably opened and the whole world ends while we've got our thumb up our butts. So
We will keep
that's
it
very
as something to do as a side project. Fine.
fine.
All right.
well, and it is better to get
Bum, bum, bum.
The gate has opened.
make
Quest complete, getting away from side missions.
and make some kind of theory while we are in a safe spot, better than out there.
It'll
Right.
be an interesting thing to speculate on in our memoirs, but right now let's save the world so that our memoirs can be written.
It might be another gate, another circle magic.
It might be, but we're not going to figure that out by staring at a rock.
Well, we need the book. That's the most important thing right now. And now that we're all here, let's find a way of getting it. And we're going to take a break before we jump into that.
Aww.